Worldwide, agriculture is central to the daily livelihoods of many people. But it also contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, is largely controlled by corporations, and is often characterized by harsh conditions. We need to create a fairer and greener agricultural system, a system that is socially inclusive of the poorest farmers.
1.4 billion people living in extreme poverty. Of them, something like 70%, that's to say 1 billion, live in the rural areas. Disproportionately represented amongst them are women, our youth, and our indigenous people and ethnic minorities. And what they do, by and large, is agriculture.
Improving the global food system is crucial for achieving sustainable development.
The majority of the extremely poor and half of the undernourished people live in 500 million farms in developing countries.
We saw droughts and subsequent famines in 1991, 1992, 2002, and in 2004 when 34% of the population could not meet their daily food needs.
Over 240,000 farmers committed suicide within 14 years.
Agriculture today faces a number of complex interconnected problems. One of the most urgent issues is food security. This is not just a matter of supply and production of food, it is also caused by weak purchasing power, cheap imports, and unfair trade rules.
We are faced with unsustainable availability, access, and utilization of food more generally, and it is becoming a major development concern. So food security, defined as the availability, access, and utilization of food, is getting to be a central development issue.
But food security is affected by many problems associated with industrial agriculture.
Climate variability has been estimated to produce large losses in production. And in Southern Africa, for example, there is an estimate that says yields will be reduced by 50%.
There's a move towards mechanized harvesting, but in a sense, in a way that helps and that undermines the arguments of the industry when it comes to the social dimension, because then if it's mechanized harvesting, then you're creating almost zero jobs.
Land grabbing is also not helping the matter, because just recently we had that New Forest Company in Uganda has driven out about 20,000 farmers, and they are homeless, and again, they don't have source of livelihood. So poverty continues.
It has been estimated that between 30 but up to 50% of the food that is produced is wasted. And it is wasted mainly within developed countries at the point of consumption.
But because Malawi is a land-scarce country, this production has to come through agricultural intensification. But this is problematic because Malawi has very low soil fertility. So any type of intensification strategy requires the use of fertilizers. And what we've learned from the South Asian Green Revolution is that high levels of fertilizer increase toxins in groundwater, which of course have resultant impacts on human health and ecosystems.
Biofuels are also a major concern. Based on plants, biofuels have the potential to reduce carbon emissions, but can have a negative effect on poverty reduction and food security.
Yeah, do it. It's really good. It's the plant of the future. You're getting into some big business here. Persuasion to the farmers, economic incentives to the private biodiesel industry to getting there. And in the end, the result has been, again, like in the two previous cases, low yields, uneconomical as a feedstock, private biodiesel industry is running away, smallholders being abandoned because there's no market.
One solution to these problems can be found in the empowerment of small-scale farmers.
There is data showing that traditional farming employs a much higher number of people per hectare than intensive industrial agriculture does.
In the literature, there is still the finding that small-scale diversified farming still has higher yields than larger farms. And usually they use environmentally sustainable technology.
There are many examples that prove the strength and feasibility of this small-scale farming approach. One of them is the food sovereignty model.
Food sovereignty was the viable agricultural model for facing ecological and social crises, particularly in the South. It's something that has been emerging out of a very long process for more than 15 years. Okay, it's a very well articulated framing of a different approach to food production and agriculture.
Food sovereignty is a grassroots agrarian reform model that also improves food security. It gives priority to sustainable agroecological methods, autonomy for people to collectively define their food system, local production and consumption, fair and secure access to land, water and seed for farmers, gender equality and well-being, and rejecting corporate control. An example is the Deccan Development Project in India.
The Deccan Development Society was established in 1983. They started in 1 or 2 villages first, then they expanded to 75 villages now. They started, leasing in land, wastelands in the villages and cultivate them and produce food and distribute on equity basis. And they're moving towards chemical-free and GM-free zones. So they try to deconstruct the hegemonic discourse and trying to construct alternative discourse on the ground, and also bring green into socialization process.
Alternative models like food sovereignty require a large-scale transformation at local, national, and global levels. Power has to shift from corporations and global institutions to small-scale farmers.
Unless you don't address the systemic issues, structural issues, it's very difficult to realize the goal of green economy. So
the groups who are reaping the benefits, they have an interest, a vested interest, in keeping these structures in place. And these are often very powerful actors who are not letting it go so easily.
There are serious, well thought through, globally coherent alternatives coming from the ground, but they're not given any resources, they're not given any institutional backing, they're not given political legitimacy. I think one way for systemic alternatives to emerge is for them to be taken seriously.